Regulation I. It's technically started in Pokemon. We haven't had a regional in it yet, but it's basically what everyone's talking about. It's what everyone's training for, and frankly, it's made me really, really excited. I haven't been playing Showdown recently, and as you can see, all of my teams have been deleted. I don't know why, but whatever. At least it's going into Regulation I this time. I do have a lot still saved on my laptop, which is where I was mostly playing Showdown, mostly in between my uni lectures. But I've been thinking recently because of how much I've seen people playing through Showdown ladders, and this single team keeps popping up, and it's been affectionately called CRUIZ. And you'll recognize the Pokemon from it. Obviously, we all know Calyrex Shadow, we know Rillaboom, we know Urshifu, Incineroar, and of course Zamazenta. And I've been wondering, because of the popularity of this team right now, could it be that we're going to get the second coming of Chalk? Because CRUIZ is an incredibly strong team, as we know. Calyrex Shadow is a busted Pokemon. It has the ability as one, which gives it Grimnay and Unnerve. Unnerve makes it so the enemies cannot eat berries. Grimnay makes it so when Calyrex Shadow gets a knockout, it gets a special attack boost, which is its highest stat. Yeah, it is its highest stat, actually. I didn't actually know if the speed or the special attack was higher, but yes, it is the highest stat. And it's just got, Astral Barrage, 120 base power, hits both foes. And then you can run Side Shock Draining Kiss. It has a ton of different movesets. You can run it with a Focus Sash, you can run it with Carmine. With Leftovers, you can run it with Choice Specs, you can run it with Spell Tag. There's so many different sets with it. Rillaboom, Fake Out, Grass Damage, and then U-turn or High Horsepower. That's how you run it. I didn't change the Terra type, but you can go Fire, you can go Water, whatever you want. Edge Rapid Strike, Water Damage, incredibly busted ability that makes it hit through Protect. Also, Rillaboom, Grassy Sedge. Grassy Sedge makes it so that it can override terrain, and when Miraidon is an incredibly strong Pokemon, so Rillaboom being used means that it can counter Miraidon. It can also counter Trick Room teams with Indeedee, because terrain is very important for both Miraidon and Indeedee, since it activates Miraidon's ability and boosts its electric type damage, and often boosts its teammates by activating their Quark Drive abilities. And Indeedee enables its partners to use strong Psychic type moves, usually Expanding Force, but it also buffs any other type of Psychic move. Rillaboom is just great grass damage. It has priority with Grassy Glide. It does a lot. It also has a really high attack stat, which definitely doesn't hurt. Urshifu, it's busted. Unseen Fist hits through Protect. Surging Strikes always crit, so Intimidate doesn't matter to it. Defense boosts don't matter to it. Close combat, it's just a really strong move. It gets priority with Aqua Jet. You can have U-turn. You give it Choice Scarf. It's really fast, and it's just busted. We hate Urshifu here. Incineroar, best Pokemon in the game. You have Intimidate. Intimidate lowers enemies' attack stats. Flare Blitz is a strong fire move. Knocks off items. Parting Shot lets it pivot to activate its Intimidate again, and also bring in Rillaboom for another Fake Out. You can Fake Out cycle between them. Fake Out stuns the opponent for one turn. Both Rillaboom and Incineroar get it and are the most prime users of it. And Zamazenta here is a bit of a support restricted, because if you don't know, Regulation I is a true restricted regulation. That's what we're mainly excited about. It's the difference between Regulation I and Regulation G. G was single restricted, I is double restricted, so you can use two. Restricted Pokemon is, of course, the box legendaries and some outliers. Like, there's some different ones, like mostly Mewtwo and Eternatus. A lot of the big bad ones, like Zygarde, the third legendaries are usually counted. You get Wide Guard, which helps against multi-target moves, spread moves. Works really well into opposing Calyrex Shadows, which is another reason why CRUIZ is so powerful, because CRUIZ itself is a counter to itself if you use Zamazenta effectively. You have Urshifu. Urshifu does really well into Incineroar. Incineroar does really well into Rillaboom. Rillaboom does really well into Urshifu because it has Grassy Glide. Zamazenta does really well into Calyrex Shadow, and Calyrex Shadow, Zamazenta does really, really well into Calyrex Shadow. And then, of course, you have Incineroar. You have Urshifu, which also does well into Zamazenta because it can Surging Strikes to ignore its defense boost. And you have Incineroar, which can Flare Blitz it and maybe burn it. You can also run Will-O-Wisp. A lot of them run Will-O-Wisp, and Will-O-Wisp is really, really strong into Zamazenta, as you still half the damage of the body press. Even though it's meant to half the physical attack, it halves the physical attack output, not the physical attack stat. So it also impacts the defense-based move, Body Press. That's all talking. But yes, This is why it's incredibly strong. And you can see all kinds of different teams running this. You'll sometimes see it with a Chen Pao, and a Chen Pao is going to run a Sash. And if you run Sashi, you might run Covert Cloak here. Or you might run Spell Tag, or something like that. There's a ton of different ways. Or you can run Choice Specs and give it a different move. It's so versatile. You can run Choice Scarf if you hate humanity, because this is the fastest Pokemon that is this is the fastest Pokemon that is in circulation right now. Like, I can literally look up Pokemon and I will see, let's sort them by speed. Let's go by speed. Regieleki, Calyrex Shadow. Regieleki is not used right now. Regieleki kind of fell off after after Generation 8, and it only really has electric type moves. Like, if I check its moveset, it's literally Acrobatics, and then Ancient Power, Electric, Normal. Wait, one sec, let me just see category. Let's go with Special. These are all its special moves. Rock, Electric, Normal, all Electric, all Normal. And if we go Physical, then it is one flying move, and then all Electric and Normal. So it does not have good coverage, and that's one of the reasons it's not really used right now. It can be used for speed control, but people are not using it. But you'll see a lot of different forms of CRUIZ. Obviously, this is incredibly strong. It has a Fire, Water, Grass core, which is a really key thing. You don't have a Dragon type, and that's might be one of the big things. But there are plenty of Dragon types you could potentially slot in here. There's also no real speed control. You have an incredibly fast Pokemon. You have an incredibly fast Pokemon with a Choice Scarf, if you're running Choice Scarf, that is. Some run Focus Sash, some run Mystic Water. You have your attack fake out cycling Pokemon. You have priority, but then you might want something like, I don't know, Tornadus with Covert Cloak. Then you just run the standard like Tailwind, Bleak Wind, Storm, and I don't know, Dark Pulse Taunt. Dark Pulse is never really used, let's be real. Maybe Rain Dance. And you use Rain Dance, and instead of Flare Blitz, you have Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, and then you can buff your Airshifter or something. You can have Tailwind to buff your entire team's speed, and you just do really well with this. Or you could have Landorus, and you can have an offensive Landorus with Sheer Force Life Orb, and you have ground type damage. Now, when you're facing a Raging Bolt, for example, against your Calyrex Shadow, your Airshifter, you can switch into Landorus, and it will not take the damage from the electric type moves. Even if Landorus is not incredibly bulky, it's still really good to just get that single turn off the field. And frankly, yeah, this is an incredible team. It's very versatile, and it's very, very popular right now for that exact reason. And it's just a question of ultimately, is this going to be popular because it's strong? Or is it going to be like Icarus and fly too close to the sun and be so popular that everyone prepares for it and goes to counter it? And that's how things end. Because if you think about Calyrex Shadow, it's been a long time since Calyrex Shadow has won a regional, as far as I know, unless it won one very recently that I've not been paying attention to. I believe when I was watching EUIC, they were saying that Calyrex Shadow hasn't won a regional in quite a while. And that's quite questionable, considering it's got an incredibly high special attack stat, and it's got an incredibly high speed, it's got decent bulk. It's an all-around incredible Pokemon. Why is that? The answer is, it's the most popular. Everyone is using it because of how easy it is to get value from. You press the funny Astral Barrage button, and you hit the enemy, and you do the damage. And if you think about these 5 Pokemon, in comparison to 2016's Chalk, I was not playing VGC in 2016, and I very, very quickly put this team together. And this is what I would imagine it would be like. You'd have Cresselia being your speed control, because it's a bulky Pokemon with Calm Mind, it has Trick Room, and you have some psychic damage. But it's mostly there to be supportive, and you have leftovers in case you want to stall. Heatran would be a special attacking offensive Pokemon that you can use to check, I don't know, the opposing grass types. You can hit electric types, you can hit fairy types, especially because they were extremely popular at the time. Fairy types have been incredibly powerful ever since their introduction in Gen 6, even if that was probably the time when they were least lowest powered, mostly because this was before the introduction of the Tapus, and the Tapus completely changed VGC in Generation 7 with the Terrain Wars and how all of the Tapus were incredibly powerful, and then Rillaboom got introduced and Tapu Bulu completely fell off. but still, checking fairy types, which were incredibly strong. You had spread fire damage, you had earth damage, you had a really, really strong special attack. It also, obviously, at the time, Landorus was very popular, and despite the fact that it was a ground type, and obviously it countered Heatran in the fact that it could hit it with a ground type move, you would have a special attacker, and special attackers were very key at the time to not get hit by the Intimidate, which is another reason why, special attackers are incredibly popular. And this would be one of the flaws of this specific team, if you think about it, because you have only one special attacker, which is this Calyrex Shadow. But that's only if you don't understand why there's only one special attacker. Intimidate is a problem, yes, to Rillaboom, and maybe Incineroar. But Issue Rapid Strike doesn't care about Intimidate. It gives crits out. Crits ignore Intimidate. Sends into Crowned. Behemoth Bash cares about that, but Body Press doesn't. Body Press uses the defense stat. So you have two physical attackers that don't care about Intimidate. And if you have a team that's relying on Intimidate, let's say they bulk the Pokemon out in special defense, then they might think, oh, my defense isn't that high. I'll use Intimidate Pokemon. I can bring them in, I can intimidate the enemy, then I basically have my defense stat buffed by 1.5 times. And then you just body press them and it kills them immediately. Sucks to be you. The meta overall has changed so much since 2016 that it's quite scary, honestly. Wait, 2016... I'm realizing now, 2016 was the year that Wolfie won VGC, which means it was a restricted format. 2015 is what I'm thinking of. Sorry. 2015 was, of course, Amoonguss is still incredibly strong, by the way. Pretty much nothing has changed with Amoonguss. I don't actually know what the fourth move would be here, because nowadays it's probably Pollen Puff, maybe Sludge Bomb if you want to go a bit more offensive, but Pollen Puff didn't exist back then as far as I know. So maybe they used Toxic or Grass Knot. Grass Knot would have actually been quite powerful in a restricted format because you would be hitting Groudon and Kyogre. And they're not used quite as much these days, but still. With the double restricted format, they will be incredibly popular. And the idea for Chalk was pretty much just, you take a ton of strong Pokemon, you put them together. Landorus, Intimidate. Kangaskhan, the strongest Mega. You have double Power Punch. You can basically do Swords Dance while doing damage. It's incredible. Return 102 base power. And then Crunch was hit Dark types if you weren't running Scrappy, because you might want to run Inner Focus if you were against a Fake Out one. Early Bird, no one used that. Amoonguss, you could put people to sleep, and it worked really well with the Trick Room being set by the Cresselia. That's your speed control. So there is a lack of speed control in CRUIZ compared to Chalk. But like I said, you can just run Tornadus. Or like, if you want to go Trick Room, you wouldn't go Trick Room. You wouldn't go Trick Room. You have Calyrex Shadow, let's be real. You could run like a Whimsicott with Trick Room, which honestly, I think that would be quite funny. You go Whimsicott, and then you have like a Sash Whimsicott, and let's say you run Cover Cloak on this instead. And then you run Tailwind. Trick Room. Protect, Moonblast. And this is your entire team. Why do you run Trick Room? You're going to Tailwind, and then if they Trick Room, you Trick Room. You just protect on the other Pokemon, and you Trick Room, and it cancels the Trick Room, and then the next head, you just start attacking again. But that's besides the point. Chalk struggles in the fact that, okay, support Pokemon, very offensive physical attacker, but is affected by Intimidate. Very offensive physical attacker, but is affected by Intimidate. Landorus Therian is pretty much the strongest Intimidate attacker at the time, and so you would often see a lot of mirror matchups between them, and that's why they ran Hidden Power Ice, so you could win the mirror. And Kangaskhan, while powerful, one of the two other Intimidate users that come to mind at this time are Hitmontop and Scrafty. And I don't quite know how popular they were, but I do know that they did see use because Hitmontop has Wide Guard and Faint, and Scrafty just has like pretty solid typing. I think it has knockoff. Does Scrafty have knockoff at this point? Scrafty has knockoff. Stab knockoff at that. So this is like Incineroar before Incineroar. You run Intimidate, and then you got what? Close Combat? Doesn't get Close Combat. Drain Punch? I guess it gets Drain Punch. That can still do a lot of super effective damage to Kangaskhan, though. You do have the benefit of Kangaskhan of being a normal type, which means you're only weak to fighting, but there are some decently good fighting types around this point, and you would be hit by low kick for a decent bit, I imagine. So, CRUIZ saw a fair bit of usage. Not CRUIZ, Chalk, sorry. Let's see what Chalk was paired with decently. Oh, I do remember now. Okay. So I do know that one Pokemon that was used quite a lot during this point, and especially the fact that if we remember to the Sage and Park's win of Worlds, I believe this was in 2014, Sage and Park was using Pachirisu, which everyone knows. Pachirisu is one of the most famous wins in Pokemon history. It's what leads people to think, oh, you can win with your favorites when they completely understand the point of Sage using Pachirisu. And the reason was because of Zapdos. Zapdos kept giving his team a really hard time with a combination of Did Zapdos look like Hurricane? That's weird. Well, I guess it would have Tailwind. Oh, you could run it in a Tail Room team, yeah, Volt Switch. And the reason he used it was because it had Follow Me and it had Volt Absorb. And so you could absorb its special electric moves. And yeah, I guess Zapdos would probably see usage around this time with it. What were other Pokemon that would pair with it? Let's see. Let's go by BST. Oh god. Oh no. These are all Mega Pokemon. Okay, no. I don't really want to sort by this anymore. Okay, so we have Amoonguss. I doubt Dragonite. Well, Dragonite was not very good right now. Redirection. You could get some. Well, we have Amoonguss for redirection, but it's Clefable or Clefairy, rather with a Violet. Other megas like Gengar. I know Gengar was a very popular mega right now. You ran Gengar right, and you used it in the way of it had Shadow Tag and it had Perish Song. So you could use Gengar with Perish Song and Shadow Tag. Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, probably. Yeah, this would be like a Gengar set that you'd see. And it would Mega Evolve, it would use Perish Song, and you could use this in tandem with Kangaskhan by, obviously, when you would win, you'd have to win 2 turns out of 3, 2 games out of 3 even. So you could lead with a hyper-offensive Kangaskhan team, and then you could go with a hyper-offensive Kangaskhan team, like you could throw Kangaskhan and Landorus immediately. Or you could go Amoonguss and Kangaskhan, and you'd Rage Powder Power Punch, Rage Powder Power Punch. And if Amoonguss dies, you bring in Landorus, and then Landorus will decrease the enemy's attack, and it will allow Kangaskhan to deal out even more damage while taking even less, with the Power Punch having buffed its attack twice in one turn. And then in the back, you have something like Heatran with the Heat Wave that can hit both Pokemon, or maybe Cresselia if you want to stall a bit, or win with like Calm Mind if you think if you target the enemy Ghost and Dark types, and then Cresselia doesn't have anything super effective against it, and it can start to set up and sweep at the very end. Or you can lead with like, well, you don't have to lead with Gengar, but you could go Gengar and I don't know, Landorus, and then Landorus sets up the Intimidate, which decreases the enemy's attack, and then Gengar comes in, you Mega Evolve, now Shadow Tag set up, you Perish Song, you can use Landorus to do some damage. And then Gengar protects, and you just stall out the turns for a bit. You could bring in Amoonguss and Rage Powder so they can't target the Gengar. And honestly, it is quite disgusting to see. I think this would have been so frustrating to play against. But then we have to think about the results of Chalk. Wolfie made a video recently focusing on Chalk, and he talked about how it was very, very popular in Asia, in the Japanese ladder, I believe. But it wasn't really seen in the West until I think it was it NAC? Or was it one of the regionals? I don't remember. This is kind of just a ramble video, as you can tell. I'm doing this in mostly one take. I just wanted to talk about this, frankly. These Pokemon videos are a lot more casual, and if you like this kind of stuff, please let me know. If you don't, then I'll just go back to making Marvel Rivals videos. I'm still trying to grow this channel, but whatever. Wolfie talked about how while Chalk was incredibly popular and it was seen in, what was it, like 90% of the top 10 teams or something? It was like 9 out of 10. It didn't really win anything in like official VGC regionals and definitely not Worlds. And you could make the argument that it's because, oh yeah, everyone saw this and you're like, oh, Chalk is extremely popular. I should learn to play against that. I'm gonna run Hidden Power Ice so I can hit 2 of these Pokemon super effective. I'm gonna bring Scrafty so I have a Dark type that's super effective into this, and a Fighting type that's super effective into this and this. And yeah, or it's just the team was popular, but it didn't actually do that well. Because if we bring things back, doesn't this sound quite similar? It sounds like a little someone over here. Because yes, it's undeniable that Grillaboom has won a lot recently. Airshifter has won pretty much everything recently. I think it was on like 90% of teams at one point. Incineroar has won a lot recently. Zamazenta's been up on the up and up and up, and with Regulation I, it's debatably the biggest winner in restricted history. I mean, watch my recent video about how I talked about that when I was ranking the restricted in Regulation I. But I honestly think that comparing CRUIZ to Chalk, CRUIZ is so much more versatile. I mean, I could easily slot in a Raging Bolt here, and I think, okay, what does my team have? So I have All Out Offense, I have Fake Out Support and Grass Damage, and Recovery with Grassy Surge. I have All Out Offense, Physical, and I can hit through Protect, and I can hit through defense buffs. I have Fake Out Protect, I have Ban Protect, I have Fake Out Protect, I have Fake Out Support, I have Banning Support to decrease the damage output, I have Knock Off to knock other items off, and I have Pivoting. I could also have Pivoting with Rillaboom if I use U-Turn. I will have Pivoting with Urshifu if I use U-Turn. I have my Wide Guard support. I have my offensive damage that comes from my defense stat. I have Behemoth Bash to two-shot Terra Fairy Calyrex Shadow. Calyrex Ice, sorry. And Iron Defense to make myself into a bit of a setup sweeper, and while also buffing my own defense. So what if I go with Raging Bolt? Okay, what could I use with Raging Bolt? I could go All Out Offense with some priority. Or I could go with more of a stall team, and I make sure its HP is specifically, wait, 176, 192, 108. So it'd be what, 124? Yeah. And I just, perfect everything, and then, okay, so that makes sense. What if I use it what if I add speed control with Tornadus, and I think, oh, what if I want to hit enemy grass types now that I don't have a fire move? Oh, well, I can use Bleak Wind Storm. And then, oh, that also covers my fighting type weakness, because I don't have anything else to hit fighting types. Except Drink, I guess, but what if I want something that has more offensive power while also having speed control? I could slot in my Icy Wind, and now I have fairy damage to hit enemy fighting types, to hit enemy dragon types, because I don't have anything to target the enemy dragon types. I can hit enemy Calyrex Shadow without risking my own Calyrex Shadow. And I don't know if I'm more familiar with the modern meta, or if CRUIZ is just insane, because I think, honestly, going into the next regional, which I think is in Sevilla, but that's might still be Regulation G. I think we don't start Regulation I officially until May the 1st. NA is currently not having any regionals until Regulation I, although I don't know if they have a regional before NAIC. NAIC with Regulation I is going to be so interesting. And I mean, I might make a follow-up to this talking about my original takes, what I thought about CRUIZ and Chalk, because I think we're seeing a lot of similarities between these two teams. I think the popularity is the most obvious, and I think the versatility is the next. So let's see how they play. I mean, Chalk didn't really win anything, but it's a legendary thing. They talk about it on every single stream. They show the video explaining Chalk and why it was so influential. Maybe CRUIZ is going to make its mark on history. Or maybe some insane psycho out there is going to come out with the world's best Groudon Reshiram team. Hint, it's me. I've been working on one for ages. You guys don't know how much I want Groudon Reshiram to work. And you want to know why? Because I found out that Reshiram lends Tailwind. But I talked about this in my other video that I mentioned earlier. So that is a topic for another time. I might ladder on it eventually. I haven't been playing Showdown recently, but that's really all I wanted to say. I think that CRUIZ is a really boring team composition because it's just strong, 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 strong. But so was Chalk back in the day, I'm sure. I didn't play VGC Pokemon at the time, so I am talking quite limited knowledge here. But from what I've been told about Chalk from videos from Wolfie, Moxie Boosted, the official Pokemon streams themselves, I do think that I have a bit more familiarity with it and I can talk about it in a general sense because I do understand what was required of each Pokemon and what was their team, what was their role in the team even. And I'm definitely, definitely very, very well equipped to talk about CRUIZ because I've used all of these Pokemon several times. I'm very excited for Regulation I. If you can't tell, this is the entire point of the video. I just want this to be fun. And I hope CRUIZ doesn't ruin it by being in every single team. So yeah, maybe that's what the future holds. Maybe CRUIZ is going to be on everyone's team, and the claims that Pokemon teams are all the same is going to be proved correct. Or maybe it's just going to fizzle out, and it's going to be a worry that we never should have had. Either way, we're in for a hell of a ride. And Regulation I is going to be so fun for like a month. I hope you enjoyed my little rant. I know this was a very rambly video and it was very unfocused. I didn't really have a plan for what I wanted to talk about except just comparing the two and talking about the history of the both. If you have any criticisms, I mean, I understand, honestly. But if you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe. I would appreciate it. I'm trying to grow this channel. I make Marvel Rivals content, I make Pokemon content. I'm going to start making videos about my completionism. I platinum games all the fucking time. And yeah, that's really it. See ya.